Yes, before we go into the screen, let me talk a little bit about myself, as Afif mentioned. First of all, I have seen a lot of people had very decent lunch. It's interesting that yesterday I was also having a lunch in the middle of this conference. I was also part of, as an attendee, listen to all these great facilitators, and I was in a rush, assuming because I was so excited to be here that my session is going to be in the afternoon. So I rushed my lunch and then I looked into the whole schedule and I realized, okay, it's tomorrow. It's so amazing how all the people get connected virtually and how these digital platforms help us to deliver the message on a timely basis. And many thanks to all the people who are listening to us from different part of the Maldives and different part of the world. You have taken the first step to develop yourself. Learning never stop, and that's what we all learn from being in the learning and development sector. My role, I think Afif has mentioned, but I want to quickly highlight when it comes to learning and development. My first role in Hilton Maldives Irufushi Resort and Spa, when I got learning and development coordinator role, I spent nights, about 5 nights, to by heart the entire orientation module because I was so nervous. Then I attended the session. There was about 20 people in the training room. I was shocked, and then I was stuck. I was frozen. It takes a little bit of practice to achieve what we want to achieve. This is what learning and development is doing for all of us, to all the employees and the organization as well. It brings the inner energy, inner strengths, and it helps us to sharpen those strengths to achieve our organization structure. So looking at my topic today, obviously Afif is talking about learning and development as a key area of highlight. I have attended all the sessions in the morning. Very interesting to see how Zaki has emphasized so much on learning and development professionals and key messages that he has delivered. Sarah has given a good insight of why it is so important to have a learning and development culture. So that makes my conversation bit more easier, because normally my conversation go a little bit longer than what is expected, and Afif knows it very well. So let's get started. The first thing is we are going to look into the role of L&D. What is the role of learning and development professionals in an organization, and the importance? We'll be talking a little bit about the importance. So in the next 25 minutes, you will be exposed to L&D professionals, their traditional approach, and I will be giving some suggestions about how we can make more effective L&D department, and also focusing on learning need analysis, which is something that is critically important that we do not focus or put more emphasis on. So I'm going to be giving some practical examples of how potentially you can do or conduct a learning need analysis that connects to your organization vision. At the end, I'm going to also help you to create a learning and development professional job skill checklist, so that you can keep doing when you are at your workplace. So starting with the first one, obviously after that we are going to connect to the organizational excellence. I hope that you all are seeing my screen. So let's look at the importance of learning and development function. Obviously, we all have been talking about this, so I'm not going to be spending a lot of time in this area. One of the key important is today's employees demand opportunities to learn. Everybody demands more training opportunities. If you look at your last employee engagement survey, you can see that a lot of people are demanding for trainings. This is because we have increasing amount of millennials coming into play. If you look at the Gallup study result in 2016, 89% of the millennials say that learning and development is important for them. And 59% of the millennials said learning and development is an important factor to consider when they decide which organization to work for. So as an organization, learning and development is so important. So that's the first part. And secondly, hiring is more expensive than employee retention. It's very difficult to give a dollar value to employee turnover. It's very difficult to calculate, but in common sense, we all believe that Hiring process involves lots of effort from human resources, interview skills, and bringing them to the resort, relocation cost, ticket cost, and more than that, also bringing them to the operation, keeping them training for about 2 months is also a cost involved factor. So we have to consider that. But having a trained employee and retaining them for the organization is going to be more profitable. This is where the learning and development plays a bigger role. And then training employees improves your bottom line. And this is about the profitability. Unfortunately, because our learning and development professionals, we do not expose the importance of the learning and development to the organization and the general manager, so we do not remind enough. What happens is when it becomes a critical situation like COVID or any other situation, the first area they go and cut the expenses is learning and development, because it becomes an expense for them. But when it comes to the long-term vision of the company, learning and development is going to bring the productivity. If you look at IBM study, they have increased the productivity by 10% from the learning and development. So this is critically important to understand why learning and development is important for your culture or your organization. Untrained employees may put you at risk. This is another key important factor. More than talking about, retention, learning and development, motivating people, we also need to look into the compliance aspect, the health and safety aspect of the resort, because there could be, people can be exposed to a huge risk, and that is going to cost an organization lots of money. That's where the learning and development come into play. And also when it comes to insurance and other factors, it is important to have these people trained. So, in compliance aspect also, it's very important. Then when we look into improved customer service and satisfaction and so on. So when learning and development play an important role in an organization, it creates consistency in service delivery. So people become more aware of their job. The productivity enhances, so that satisfaction enhances. So it keeps on going, and we add more and more benefits. So learning and development is important. We all understand that, and these are the few points. So now what? Knowing is half of the battle, right? As we all say, knowing is half of the battle. So once you understand the importance of learning and development, you have to expose that to your leadership. And then after that, you have to keep on stepping and taking baby steps, slowly and step by step, to create this culture within your organization. And that is what is needed. The action is what is needed. And I can see lots of learning and development experts are here listening to us. They are great facilitators with us here listening to us as well. It is important that we as learning and development experts, we expose this knowledge to our leadership and continuously present the importance and the impact that learning and development is creating towards the organization, in order for them to believe in the impact. Because a lot of time people ask questions, what is the impact of that $20,000 that you spent on a training program? Moving on, I'm going to give you a traditional approach, more like my role as a learning and development manager. Before I moved into operation, I did not realize how important learning and development could have played. But when I was a learning and development manager, these are the typical roles, these things that I was doing. Conducting resort orientation every single month on a calendar, conducting departmental trainer session, train the training, preparing for that departmental trainer session, and training them on 3 months basis, host departmental trainers meeting, assist with supervisors, development sessions, occasionally complete training plan for the next month. Always in my head, it's always about on 25th of month, let me finish the training plan for the next month. Let me bring some trainings here and there and fit into the beautiful calendar and put some beautiful pictures and put that on the notice board. Resort collector for departmental trainings. I'm the collector of all the attendance. Now, I did not realize whether this is really should be my function, or whether this is the most effective role that I could play. Until I came to operation, I realized how quickly a learning and development manager can bring an impact to the operation, into the customer satisfaction, solve a problem immediately, attend to and tackle the situations right then and there, rather than being reactive, sitting in an office and going through programs that we have thought of in the last year that we will be hosting this year. Now, I'm talking about being proactive and reactive. Um, we a lot of time we become very reactive. We design the programs that we feel comfortable with. We deliver the programs that we think, oh, we haven't delivered for a long time, let me put this program. Then we expect a lot of attraction and people to come to our training session. Unfortunately, it does not happen because the departmental heads are not, believing in the training programs, or no, the resort manager or the company head, or your GM or CEO. So being proactive means getting connected closely with the key person that manages the operation and identifying the areas where you need to create an impact. And that is the most important function of learning and development. That is how you can create an impact for operation to achieve operational excellence. Obviously, the training that includes orientation, job skill checklist, cultural diversity, these things are set training programs for mainly for newcomers. That is essential, but do not stop from there. You have to move on to the next level where you have to provide or create that impact, get the organization going and align your goals into the organization. So that's what I didn't realize when I was a learning and development manager. I'm sharing with all the learning and development professionals here on this platform so that you can also, understand how or what are the things that you are doing currently that create value, add value to the organization versus what you could have done. This is a good exercise that probably the as a learning development professional you could do. Now, just to summarize the entire thing into 5 key areas of talent development, I believe one of the key area of the talent development is attract and retain potential talent. Now, traditionally, learning and development was always focusing on productivity, increasing the productivity. How can we increase the number of quantity produced? How can we, it's always about volume and productivity. But in the current world, the model has changed. People working for a company for a lifetime has changed to a model where the company will only hold the employees until they add value. When they do not add value to their company, the company will redundant the employees. Especially after the COVID current situation, we all realize that human capital, we all started looking into the expense of human capital more closely and trying to shrink and reduce as much as we can to eliminate the efficiency and productivity. So this is one very key important area that I believe learning and development should play an important role. Now, develop people capabilities, identifying the strength within the people of your organization through surveys, through observation, through performance evaluation, all these platforms. Once you get the strength of the people, utilizing that strength at its maximum is part of your role as a learning and development professional. And this is a very critical area. The third thing is create a value-based culture. I'm not going in detail of value-based culture, but we all have gone through a very detailed presentation with IAS yesterday, and I learned a lot actually from that presentation. And he mentioned learning and development is the fuel of the organization. That's how important it is. So creating a value-based culture within the organization involves, we all understand the world is moving into more virtual working culture, and when people are more diversified globally, that supports to a company rather than having everybody in one company. So learning and development has to play this role to connect people, to create that value. And I see Afif was talking to Sarah on the same topic, and I think it is so important to keep people engaged in that company to make sure that they create the value. Now, the other point that I want to highlight is build an employer brand. Taraka has gone through a very detailed presentation in the morning about the branding, but branding is such an important thing. And who holds the branding flag of the organization? It is the learning and development professional, the first person who is the most important person who acts as a a sample who moves, who talks about the company values, who demonstrate the company values to the people. Then motivate and engage employees, keeping everyone motivated, engaged. Now, keeping people engaged, we do a lot of activities, a lot of fun activities, social activities, but training and preparing or giving opportunities for development is the biggest or number one engagement activity that you can do in an organization. Trust me, that's what people will believe. That's how people will connect with you. That's how people will love you when you invest your time in their development. This is the first step. Moving on, obviously that's the key important of learning and development. Now we are moving into, where do you think is the, I have a quick question. This is a question that many people ask me as well. The question is, where do you think is the right fit for L&D department? I have 4 answers. I'm pretty sure you're seeing the answers. Yeah. Are you seeing the answers? Answer number 1 is human resources, or should L&D be sales department, or should it be under director of operation, or it can be under executive office or manager or MD office. I want you to give me the answer from the chat box. Let's see how your reaction. Yeah. Please go and write on the chat box your answer. I see under DO, I see under HR. This is a very interesting question. Where do you think learning and development should be in the organization? Under human resources, human resources, human resources. I see a lot of people saying human resources. Question number 4. Some people are saying 4 under CEO, MD office. Yeah, it's very mixed. Very interesting to see your answers. Come on, keep on coming. It's very interesting to see. Under me, that's very interesting. Probably yes. We have human resources. So I would say independent. Okay, that's interesting. Human resources, executive office, managing director. So what is the correct answer? The correct answer to this question is it depends. It's normal, right? But let me give you very important information. Now, when I was in, before I go into the answer, when I was in Four Seasons, I used to report to the F&B divisions manager, dotted line to human resource director. When I was in One and Only, I used to report into a different structure. People know that. And then when I was in Hilton, we report into the director of operations. So it kind of changes in brand to brand or company to company. But the answer where the learning and development sits under depends on who is the most exposed person to the learning and development culture of the organization. Unfortunately, not all the HR directors are 100% exposed to the learning and development culture. That means they might not be able to give the right direction as and when needed when it becomes to operational impact. So in those kind of organizations, yes, they can be tied with more into the director or maybe assistant director or maybe director, because the issues from the guest side comes more to the front side and the operation side. However, there are HR directors who grow up from learning and development, understanding the impact that they can create from learning and development. Then it is advisable to have it under human resources, because 50% of the role of learning and development also involved in induction and making sure the people are trained according to the requirement and then create an impact. So I would say the answer, it doesn't matter which department, but the head, the learning and development should be reporting to somebody who has the knowledge of learning and development. That's where the answer lies in. Moving on, next is, so where do we start as a learning and development professional? What should I do first? What is the first thing that I should be doing? Obviously, there are a lot of questions, right? Another question is, what do we need to train now? Do we need to train orientation or what? How do I know what I need to train to the people? This is a lot of time, and then quite a lot of time we tend to sit in the desk and we decide what is comfortable for us. That is being given to the organization. We forget one important thing called learning need analysis. What is learning need analysis? If you go to Google, you will find more than 150 200 different types of charts of learning need analysis. I don't want to, I do not recommend to do that. Learning need analysis of your organization depends on your organization culture. But I'm going to give you some practical example of things that you can do to create a learning need analysis. If you haven't done the learning need analysis for the year, then you don't know where you're going in your learning and development part for the entire year. Obviously, there could be some up and down like COVID situation or any unpredictable situation, but overall, if you look at the resort structure, for example, I know there are people who are not from the resort structure. In November and December, it becomes a peak period for the resort. So the learning and development professionals, we get more comfortable and we support the operation. We do some other ad hoc things. Rather than focusing and doing a proper learning and development need analysis that we could have presented to the key stakeholders of the company, including the general manager. And I also strongly believe when we do the budget for the year, learning and development manager should be exposed, should come out and talk about the strategy of learning and development for the next year. Not only the amounts, but also the impact that they're planning to create and how, what are the trainings that they're focusing on. And when you design the training programs, before you design, you need to know what the organization is asking you to do. What is the organization needs? What are the people's needs? And one more important thing, what do you have? You have yourself or you have one more person who can help you? These are the important questions that we are going to answer in the next slide. Now, what is a learning culture? Here's another question before we go into the learning culture. A learning culture consists of a community of employees instilled with a growth mindset. People not only want to learn and apply what they have learned to help their organization, they also feel compelled to share their knowledge with others. What we are saying is, if that happens in an organization, your organization is a learning culture. You have leaders coming out, training people. You have employees who are asking for training, who is attending trainings, who are showing their interest in different development opportunities. Now, this is a learning culture. And how do we create that? With a proper need analysis, learning need analysis. So before we go into how to create a learning need analysis, I have one more question for today. Who is responsible for creating a learning and development culture of your organization? Now, I have 4 answers. Please, this is your chance. Go and answer. Number 1 is the general manager. Number 2, human resource director is responsible for learning and development culture. L&D manager is responsible for creating learning and development culture. All employees and leaders are responsible. I see a lot of interest in people. Everybody is saying 4. LA, I can see that. Very nice. Very good. So I think we all agree the ownership needs to come from the staff also. The leaders should also invest their time to teach the people to come out. It's not learning and development professional in the organization who needs to do training. We need to connect this. We need to make sure that the resources that are available in the organization are brought into a table and given out to the people who need it. The most important role to do that is the learning and development manager. And that's the person who connects the dots. That's what we are going to find out. Let's see a very simple way of doing a learning need analysis. If you Google, you're not going to find this because this is something that I have learned from my experience. I'm trying to highlight here because I have done this 2 times in 4 seasons during my time in 4 seasons. First thing is gathering the data for yourself to digest and to summarize. The first thing is obviously you look into staff engagement survey. You have to see how the people responded in their survey. There are surveys done on semester wise, on annual wise in different organization and structure. So the result of the survey, people will be asked questions like, what sort of training you need? Where do you want to see yourself? What sort of topics that you want to develop, or which competencies you want to improve? These kind of questions will give you answers. The other thing is guest feedback survey. This is basically all platform that helps you to capture customers' feedback. It's a TripAdvisor, guest survey, online platform, Google Form, any other platforms. So that information, condensed version, is important for you to have it on your notice board. Then company goals. You cannot make a learning need analysis without knowing where the company is heading, the goals of the company for the next year, what's the customer satisfaction percentage, what do you want to achieve as a company. Once you get this, this is your guideline to have, to structure your learning need analysis. Then you look into succession planning. I have done a succession planning with MAP last time over 2 hours, but there are many ways of doing succession planning and identifying the gap, identifying the potential people, identifying the people who needs development capacity or who has the development capacity. Those group of people needs to be pulled out, because you need to know who needs to learn and who is going to be part of these trainings. Then human capital needs. Now many companies, they do human capital need analysis. This is to tell you, or to tell somebody or the company, how many people you need next year. So that is very important. I know the time is running out. So the last part is that, so then once you have all this information, then you go to your leaders and do a survey. In your survey, you have to ask the leaders to identify their strengths and the weaknesses. Now, there are two ways to do it. Now, believe me, your leaders are going to tell you a lot of strengths, because they want to, demonstrate that they have good strengths. These strengths you can use to facilitate to the lower level when you deliver. They are going to be your facilitators. How you pick the facilitators for change management, organization development, or organization culture, or communication skills, is based on the leaders' results. What I have done is completely different. I found out in my organization, the leader who said I need to develop my communication skill. So I gave communication module to that leader to facilitate to the line staff. You know what he did? He went and studied and studied, and did the YouTube video and prepared himself to become a communicator, and he practiced, and he came and delivered, because he is forced to deliver. He has a session that is coming up. So in that way, it's a win-win situation. The leader developed the communication skills, and the people who needed communication skills from the line staff is connected. So this is how you can create a learning organization. Learning and development professionals are not alone. It's how you play the game. It's how you connect the leaders, how you bring them to your side of the game to make sure that the delivery happens timely. So you got your facilitators, you got your learning development need analysis done. This is time for you to create a learning culture. Last thing is the key direction for L&D to achieve operational excellence. I'm listing quite few here. These are few things that you can look into your role as a learning and development professional in the next years to see whether you are creating an impact. Highlighting few develop and implement learning strategies, evaluating organization as well as individual employee development needs, optimizing training process to improve ROI, manage and procure L&D technologies where needed for your organization, design e-learning courses is very important now, implementing effective training, managing personnel with the learning and development department, and maintaining the learning and development budget within the organization. Obviously, these are not what I showed you, what I did as a learning and development manager. It's the most important task that I could have done. These are some of the areas that you as a learning and development professional could add value to the organization. So overall, I know the time is of it's very short allocated. So I hope that we covered few key important areas that includes learning need analysis, how to do that, the importance of the L&D professional, and the impact that they can create towards the operational excellence. And this is, I hope that helped everyone who are listening to us. Thank you very much for MAP for giving me this opportunity and giving the entire country this opportunity to get so many professional people sharing their experiences to the people who I need. And thank you all who are online listening to us and keeping us engaged, giving so much positive comments. I can see you there. Thank you very much. That's all from my side.
Very good, Inaz. Thank you. I see that. I'm sure everybody can see you right now on the main screen. Very good. I think you shared a very simple understanding and the general view of the way that the L&D functions can really take lead in. And I think your presentation quite complemented to Zaki's case study earlier, right? It's the job of everyone, but someone has to lead with it. And I think to operationalize the learning and developments, you need to be on the floor. You need to make sure you work with every department, not just your own department, right? And you have to see where else you can enforce and implement new ways of doing things. And on our question box, we actually have got a couple of questions. So I would like to take one or two. So the first question here is that, what do you think is from Yas? What do you think the role of L&D department in identifying the lessons to be learned from the mistakes, failures, and challenges the organization face? What's your response to that?
Wow, this is very interesting because it's very much touched with what I have done in few times in my last jobs. Lesson learned every year is important exercise to be done, because every year we learn a lot of lessons and quite a lot of things we predict, but it doesn't happen. But I think it's L&D department. It's one department needs to take responsibility, not only the responsibility, but a department who can compile that from the different HODs and submit it to the resort so that we don't do the same mistake. When it comes to the pre-opening, I have experienced two pre-opening in one company. So the company asked us after the first opening, what are the lessons learned? And as an L&D person, I was able to bring all the managers together and ask them, because they know it better than anybody else. So they started sharing all this information, which I compiled, submitted to the next project, and that helped us a lot in terms of staff accommodation, in terms of shortages that we first opening. So I think, yes, it's a very good question to all the people, that L&D could play a very important role, and not many organization does that. But I suggest that L&D should take the first flag and say, yes, we are going to do the lesson learned for this year, for the next year.
Yeah. Then I have another question here, and I think it kind of leads with there's two questions, but I'll put all of them together. There's a question which says, I've been working in my current organization for more than 3 years, and there have not been any kind of training given to the staff. I have personally given many suggestions and recommendations with regard to creating a learning culture. As a result of this, the staff turnover rate is very high. Can you suggest any strategies or ways by which we could convince our top management on the importance of L&D in the organization? And then another question also kind of links with the same thing. So if you could enlighten us, I know it's quite a big topic, but briefly, if you could share how to go about with such situations.
Yes, unfortunately, not all the organizations realize the importance of learning and development. And I believe that has a lot with to do with the person who is in charge of the learning and development of the organization. We have a living example like Afif, who is representing Lux Maldives as well as MAP, and doing so much for learning and development, not only for the resort, but for the country, along with the MAP professionals as well. So when it comes to an organization, when they lack the learning and development function, obviously people will be lost, and there will be inconsistency, a lot of stress, and people turnover will be very high. Now, one person who is responsible for the organization should flag up, and that person could be an HR director, or if this person who is asking the question is the learning and development professional, which I believe a lot of people in this platform are learning and development professional, then I suggest, when I was a learning and development professional, I used to go and talk about many things in once a week in the morning meeting, present of things that we are doing, to make sure that the people understand the importance of learning and development and how it has created impact, because not many people understand, because it's intangible. So in order to create that, I think we have covered few more ideas that you can use to create a learning culture where leaders and the people are involved, but it has a lot to do with the person, the L&D person in the middle. So I would suggest, if you're not an L&D person, go to L&D person and expose them and have a chat and see how he can get or she can get convinced of that topic. If it is an L&D person, I suggest don't sit in the office. Go to the GM or morning meetings and present your ideas, present your strategy, present what you have achieved last month, present what you are planning for the next month, and ask openly to all the HODs, guys, is there any issue that you are having that I can help you with? One person or two person will say, yes, I am facing, difficulty with, communication, or people are not coming duty on time, or whatever, it can be anything, but there could be some potential add-on that you can get. So that involves the people.
Yeah.
So basically
Yeah.
the answer is you have to expose that.
Yeah, no, very good. I think, Minas, you straight away you went to the point, and also I just want to add on to that. It's all about, if you're not seeing the response that you need, perhaps you could have a frank discussion and say, look, it's important that we train our people, but if you're your top leader, and say, look, it's important we train our people, and we're trying to do this and that, but we don't see any response from you. What's your priority? I mean, this is my job to train the people, yeah, but what's your priority? If you can tell me your priorities, and I will then reprioritize the learning and development and see where it fits in. But we can't just run an organization without training our people. And I think often we don't have this conversation, so the managers assume it's okay, but of course, assuming is not a good idea anyhow. So I think there's a lot of different ways that we could do that. Inas, closing remarks from you.
Well, I would like to thank you, and I would like to, see how we all can support. And this is a great platform. A lot of people are going to be talking today. There are very interesting people coming in line, talking about different topics. And these recorded videos, I believe Marp will be making it available for public. So
Yeah.
share these to the people who are not in today's session. These are lot of professional people I have seen speaking from yesterday's session towards today. These are great ideas, and I believe that it is going to add a lot of value to the people. And thank you so much. And from our side, from Jobsicle as well. Last thing is we are hosting our very first virtual orientation and apprentice program tomorrow. Very excited about that. So thank you very much.